how responsive the seller is. That allows the buyer to then naturally select whether, do I want to buy from this seller or do I want to buy from another seller? So in that sense, we are then incentivizing the sellers to pick up the game and basically provide better user experience for their buyers as well.
Or is it a set price?
So as we focus a lot on interaction between buyer and seller, we also understand that sometimes sellers want to provide special discounts to specific buyers. If you guys look at the product page, there is a buy now button, but there's also a chat button. And when you chat with your seller, you're able to chat to offer. So for example, if a product costs 1,000 pesos, and if you wanna put in an offer to your seller, so if you offer 950 pesos, you allow the seller to decide whether they want to accept the offer or not. So in that sense, it's really nothing. It's really exactly the same as being offline at a flea market and basically haggling with your seller as well. So that allows for closer interaction between the buyer and the seller for them to negotiate the prices for both sides.
Available in the Philippine side, just within the Philippines, or can we buy from other countries since we have operations in other Southeast Asian countries?
It's very local country centric. So whether it's the buyers or the sellers or even the team. So I'm very proud to say that we have a team of 60 people today, all locally based. We believe that winning the market on the C2C space is really about localization and understanding what your consumer needs are locally. So to your question, the selling and buying both happens specifically within Philippines. That's for now. What we have seen is we've heard a lot of feedback from the sellers, especially the sellers who has grown with us from day one, and that's only 4 or 5 months ago. A lot of the sellers are really coming to us and asking us, can we start selling to Singapore? Can we start selling to Taiwan? A lot of them are looking at cross-border solutions. I think that's something that we continuously try to strive towards. Shopee, the app, is still a very, very new app. There's still a lot for us to improve, features for us to add on. And as we add on these products, these features, we want to understand what the needs are from the local sellers and buyers, and we'll evolve the app along the way.
Thank you. Other side of Shopee, if I will be the seller, you have mentioned that payment will be via escrow. So it means that you will hold it for a specific amount of time before you give it to me, right? How it work? Like for example, if I will be selling items, let's say in a day I'll be selling like 15 items, and let's say that 15 items will be sold. How soon will I get the payment?
So a lot of it depends on. So let me just quickly run everyone through the end-to-end process. So basically, how it works is within 30 seconds you upload your 15 items. So that's on the platform. Tomorrow a buyer places an order. So whether depending on which payment option he chooses, bank transfer, credit card, in future, or COD, the money comes to Shopee. So it stays in Shopee's escrow account. We immediately inform the seller that we have the money and it's now safe to ship out. Right? So now the seller can decide how he or she wants to ship the item. So based on the shipping process, the shipping method, once the item reaches the buyer has to do is to press confirm, goods received, and we'll immediately process the payment to the seller. So a lot of times it really depends on two things. One is which payment option the buyer chooses, but more importantly, how quickly and how promptly the seller ships out the item. So it's a very good incentive structure where the seller is incentivized to basically ship as soon as possible for the item to reach the buyer, so that they can receive the money back.
The buyer will click confirm to make sure that they got the item.
Right.
Let's say I'm a bad person and I will not click confirm.
So we have thought of that. Correct. So there's basically two ways. Let me explain to you the first way that it's happening right now. So we basically set a deadline in terms of the longest expected time for shipping to be done. So I'm just going to pick a number. Macy probably knows this better than me, but let's say it's 15 days. So 15 days after payment, on the 14th day, we will inform and we will remind the buyer to remind them if they have received the item or not, or whether they want to extend the escrow period. Typically, if you're a bad buyer, you have the item, you forget about it, you're very excited about your product, so you don't press the release button. That's fine. On day 15, we'll automatically release the money to the seller. So that happens today. Tomorrow, what's going to happen? We are currently in negotiation with specific logistic companies that basically does an integration with our platform. So let's take, for example, if we eventually work with LBC, for example, what happens is the moment LBC completes the delivery, LBC would inform Shopee. So both the seller, the buyer, as well as Shopee understands that the product has been delivered, whether it's on the 2nd day, 5th day, or 10th day. We'll wait 1 day for the buyer, and then we'll release the money to the seller. So that will shorten the time needed for the seller to receive the item, the cash.
So you mean that every single time that a buyer will confirm that they have received their shipment, that we have completed basically the contract of sale, then the money will be deposited in our account. So that's basically it, right? So the fulfillment of obligations of both parties shall be made first and be confirmed before the money. So how long exactly will it be deposited? Today, tomorrow, or will it be in a bulk deposit? For example, I sold 15 items today, 3 tomorrow. When will I get the sale that I made on a Wednesday? And when will I get the sale that I made on a Thursday, on a Friday, and on a Saturday? Because of course, we all know that Saturday and Sundays are non-business days. Yeah, they're dead.
So typically, either when the buyer confirms or when the 15 days period has ended, what Shopee does is we process the payment on a daily basis. So what we don't do is we don't basically consolidate a big amount before we release it to you. As and when, so for example, if Tuesday was the day that the buyer clicks confirm that he has received the item, we'll process for payments the very next day. So depending on when the buyer clicks confirm, that's exactly when we'll process the payments to you.
So at the very least, I would consider, like, if I bought an item today, the seller sends tomorrow, and then it takes about 2 to 3 days. So at the most by Monday, I'll get my payment.
Well, that's if they confirm.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah,
If they are
you should
diligent
probably
enough to
take it.
confirm.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's correct.
All right, that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How about what are your systems for returns? Because of course not everything is
For sure.
going to be fine.
That's a very good question.
So just to share a little bit, when we first started out building the whole process, the end-to-end process where we guarantee, we placed a lot of emphasis around dispute management. We were predicting that there will be quite a number of disputes, and how do we manage the disputes in a fair way, which is fair not just for the buyer, but also for the seller, because both sides, that's our ecosystem, and both sides are our customers. What we have found out, which is very pleasant for us, not just in the Philippines, but in the 7 countries that we're in, the percentage of dispute is less than 1% of total transactions, which is very uncommon. If you look at the rest of Southeast Asia, typical returns, especially for platforms that allow for returns, you're looking at 15 to 20% return rate. But for us, very, very uniquely, we're looking at less than 1%. Now, but this 1% we still need to manage. Right? So how we manage it, we basically have a local dispute management team. We have clear guidelines as to what is returnable, what is not returnable. Majority of the times, we actually encourage the buyer and the seller to manage the disputes between themselves. Now, if there is an escalation, which there can potentially be, so if there's disagreement between the buyer and the seller, then it gets raised to Shopee, and Shopee's management center basically runs through the guidelines, provides the judgment, communicates to both the buyer and seller, and once the decision is made, then we'll act accordingly.
Thank you very much for that. I think that ends our question.